What is up, Rad Potential YouTube? Welcome to today's video. We are here to talk about the RX7. So, as an aspiring kid, you see Fast and Furious, right? Fast and Furious 1, not Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift. Fast and Furious 1, the red RX7 FD has always been one of the most iconic cars, and arguably, which I will argue, is my favorite Fast and Furious car, next to like, not next to anything, but, you know, the FD from Fast and Furious 1, and then you have the Monte Carlo from Tokyo Drift. Prove me wrong. Those are the two cars, the most underrated car. Anyways, not the reason we're here. So, the RX7, right? Always a dream car of mine, always growing up, wanting to own one, wanting to be around them. And fortunately, I bought a first-gen RX7. My rotary, one rotary car up there turned into, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, I don't know, 10 of them. I've probably had 20 of them over the course of the past whatever. But never have I owned an FD. And this is the video that we're kind of going to talk about this car. We're going to talk about the pros and cons of this car. And we're going to talk about maybe why I haven't owned one yet. Now, this car right here we have in front of us is a 1992 RX7. Came from Japan. Imported by a military man at some point. Brought across. My buddy bought the car from him. The car's in pretty good shape. It's pretty much complete. It has just about everything you need. It is a 2+2 from Japan model, so it's got a back seat and stuff. And let me tell you, the back seat doesn't exactly help you with your interior storage options, okay? Now, we'll pop the hood, show you what's up. Fast and Furious style. Pop the hood. So, unfortunately, we don't have a 2JZ in this one, but we do have a 13B REW with a nice single turbo on there, okay? This motor, well, and the reason this car is here is that this car just got the stock port motor taken out. No, did not need rebuilt. Don't hate on the rotary reliability. It ran perfectly fine. And we put a half Bridgeport motor in. So the short end of that is a half Bridgeport is much like putting a bigger cam in a piston engine. Gives you a little more overlap, a little bit more valve duration, a little bit like bigger valve, right? Comparing it to a piston engine. But this car, half Bridgeport, it's got the braps. We'll fire it up here in a second for you. Time warp. We are going to fire this car up because I got on a tangent talking about the car and we didn't start it yet. So, half Bridgeport, still definitely not entirely tuned the best, but it does consistently start. And this thing has the braps. Alright, so I'll give you the quick run around to the back so you can hear this awesome engine note, and then we'll cut back to the video. Listen to that. All the braps. I can't really rev it up too much because we're still breaking the motor in. So, back to where I was at. So, other than that, it's mostly stock. So you're not going to see a ton of boost out of this one. You're not going to see, you know, it doesn't have crazy coils. It's on an Apex C-Power FC. It's got bigger injectors, excessive manifold. I'll put the playlist up here of all the videos for this car. You can go check it out. So, the FD as a whole, right? We already have the engine bay open. Let's talk about rotary reliability, okay? In the course of me being around rotary cars, we get to play with FDs. And I've worked on probably 5 or 6 of them, pulled motors in probably 4 to 5 of those, put new motors in, whether they just needed rebuilt, whether they needed, like this one, just got an upgraded motor, whether we pulled the motor to do whatever. Generally speaking, these cars can be made really reliably, or can be made to run really reliably, okay? The underlying caveat to all of that, okay, is that the RX7, despite its modern sexiness and how awesome they look, and like the fact that you could go park this next to a brand new Corvette, well maybe not the C8, but 5 years ago, a brand new Corvette, and it still looks like it's time, is that an FD-RX7, generally the ones in the United States, are all 25 years old. The wiring's been cooked in the sun and cooked by the engine. The interior pieces have been cooked in the sun. So, if you have one of these that gets put together with all new parts, right? So, you can buy new wiring harnesses, you can buy new engines, or brand new engines from Mazda still, you can get new injectors, etc. Right? You put one of these back together with 100% new stuff, you get it set up right, it's going to be a reliable car. Okay, I've been daily driving this particular one for the past week. It hasn't left me stranded anywhere. It hasn't left me stuck at a gas station with a hot start issue, whatever, right? If you have a well taken care of car that's 25 years old, it should be okay. But, like I was alluding to earlier, these cars are going to have project car problems, meaning you're going to have crunchy wiring, you're going to have oil leaks, you're going to have stuff like that that's going to come up. You're going to have a throwout bearing that was perfectly fine when the original owner parked his car 10 years ago, and then you bought it from him having having sat for a while, expecting to have this perfectly manicured, well-maintained car. You're going to take it out and drive it for a little while, and things are going to start to break. And that's just the part of owning an old car, okay? Don't attribute it to the rotary engine. Trust me, rotary engines themselves, the actual engine, right? The core of the engine is usually not the most common, or I guess I'd say, the rotary engine is usually not the part that fails, that kills the engine. It's generally something around it that's going to fail, and then that's going to cause the engine to break. Much like if you break a valve spring, much like you break a retainer, like my Corvette, drop a valve, toasted the motor, right? So, don't hate on the rotary. I love the rotary. It's sick, okay? But I will say this, well, my thinking, if you have any engine in your RX-7 and the car's running and on the road, sick. Doesn't matter. I don't care. LS swap it, 2J swap it, RB swap it, put whatever you want in these cars. Any car that runs, that's my view on things. I'm not going to just say the rotary's whatever. So, moving around the side of the car, okay, we're going to talk about arguably the top reason, in my opinion, to own an FD-RX7, okay? It's the looks. The FD-RX7 is a timeless piece of Japanese history. They are completely just astounding to look at. I mean, the body lines are crazy for a 90s car. This car's got like 99 spec style circle taillights, but even the stock 93 spec bricks, even the stock 93 front end, which a lot of you guys go, oh, 99 spec, swap it. So, quick little infomercial. 99 spec has the more aggressive looking turn signals. So this is a 99 spec here. And here, I'll overlay a picture of a 93 spec. They have a more rounded style, and it's just more 90s-ish, right? The 99 spec ran all the way to 2002 was that body style in Japan, and they just look prime. So, getting back to the original statement here, in my opinion, the best reason, the biggest reason to own an FD-RX7, other than the fact that it was your childhood dream car and they're awesome, is the fact that they look sick. Okay, you can take this to any car show, you can drive this down the road, you can go to gas stations. You're going to get people that are going to say, what the heck is that? Is that a C5 Corvette? What kind of engine does that thing have? It sounds like a bunch of bumblebees in a coffee can, right? And that is huge in the car scene. A lot of people now don't so much build cars for any crazy like performance thing anymore, right? You build a car because it's like art. You want a car that reflects and is something cool that you've created or had a shop build for you that fulfills that vision of, right, of your collector car that you want to own. And for a lot of people, this is one of the best canvases to start with. So, sick. It's awesome. They're beautiful. You can't beat it. So, past the looks of the car, right, which is a huge positive for the FD-RX7. I mean, timeless. We're going to talk about driving experience, okay? And starting with driving experience, we'll start with just user interface, okay? So, this car is right-hand drive. I'm going to get in the passenger side of the car for you, okay? Now, to put it into perspective, I'm 6'4", 180 pounds. I ride mountain bikes, fairly fit dude, okay? Now, when I get in this car, you're going to see I'm going to have to sit down, have to swing my legs in, not kill the dash with my knees, right? And now I am in the car, okay? So you can see knees barely fit my hand between my knee and the dash, featuring my dog Letty. And as far as headroom, I got none. If I had a helmet, I'd be sitting like this because that's just how it is. And I come from racing first generation RX7s, like this blue one right here, like the ones up there, with roll cages and stuff. So I'm used to having to mount my seat to the floor, get myself real low, still have some head clearance issues, you know, that, this, that, and the other. And these FDs are really, really tight. And they have the whole modernish car stuff going on where, or the start of the modern car stuff, where the dash now hangs really low to accommodate airbags, to accommodate all sorts of heater ducting, to make sure all that stuff's more efficient, right? And it just really, for me, it takes away from the driving experience because I don't have a comfortable grip on the car, right? So not so much like stepping away from what we're talking about here in the interior, but being comfortable in the car is very important if you want to drive your car in anger or aggressively. And I just personally don't feel very comfortable sitting in one of these. So I've never been too keen on the driving experience of these cars. Anyways, the cockpit. The reason that I didn't sit over there is because I wanted to be able to show you guys this stuff without me in the way. So this car's got a steering wheel that brings it closer to you. Imagine a bulky, ugly stock steering wheel right here that sits really far back. My knees, you can see, barely clear over here. They definitely don't clear over there. Worth a crap. So, the cockpit and stuff, very reminiscent, or vice versa. The Supra, Mark IV Supra, looks very similar to this. You've got driver-oriented gauges, radio, all that stuff. The HVAC controls all face the driver. And then center-mounted tack. Drop a comment below if you can name the rotary-powered cars that don't have a center-mounted tachometer. I'll give you a hint. The rotary truck is not one of them. The rotary truck has a center-mounted tack. Drop a comment below if you know that. Some rotary car history. So, I'm going to go ahead and jump out. One thing, too, like I said, 90s cars. Interior parts are baked. You're going to see things like this. Little cracks in the dash. You're going to see some stuff like this in RX7s. It's just kind of normal unless you have, like, a museum-kept quality piece, right? It's just, you know, it's normal for this stuff to not entirely be the best, especially if people don't know what they have with an FD and they just kind of leave them outside and they get dilapidated and stuff. And FD parts and interior parts, I think one of the last times that I heard a number thrown out there is like a complete, nice, say, A- condition, black FD interior, the total thing, you could part out for like $4,000. So somebody could correct me if I'm wrong, but I know these door panels are expensive. I know they really like to break, and you can hear just like the creakiness in them. And if you buy one of these cars, let me tell you, first things first, you need to put a warning label right here on your passenger door that says, points an arrow to this handle and says, do not pull on this handle. You want to close the door from here or close the door from the window frame, because this handle will rip off even if you buy a new one. They're just not very strong, cheap 90s plastic. So, now, we're going to talk about the part that I was kind of foreshadowing a little bit earlier, right? The driving experience as you drive this car down the road. So, outside of looking like a total gangster rolling in a super sexy car, these cars drive really nice in the spectrum of all cars, right? And I'm going to compare this car, the FD, to other cars I've driven to kind of give you a rating or whatever, right, or my thoughts, okay? So I have a Z06 Corvette. I've driven RX8s, very hard. I've driven first gen RX7s, very hard. I've driven every generation of Corvette. Driven a lot of different, had a Mark III Supra, an FC RX7, right? So I've been in the rear-wheel drive kind of realm of cars, and I used to race rally, okay, off-road rally. I've got my other rally cars in here. So I'm used to rear steer, used to steering with the tires and whatever, right? Used to being slung back in the car. These cars are notoriously, and in my opinion, they are a handful to drive at the limit. And I say that because having driven Miatas and RX8s, which are very confidence-inspiring cars, right, low horsepower, I'm going to say that with, I've driven stock RX7s, like stock power, right? So this one's probably going to make like 400, you know, a stock twins, very nicely set up stock twins car is going to make 280, 300 wheel. And that much power in one of these little cars, it can get a little dicey on the back roads if you're trying to push the limits. The seating position's not the greatest. You're kind of far back. The suspension it's still, you know, it's good for its time, but it's not crazy the best. These cars are definitely not numb, but they are more numb than the likes of like a first gen RX7 or a 240Z, right? And it's as to be expected. They're more modern, you know, better power steering, better rack and pinion, you know, all that stuff. But I've just never been entirely impressed with the driving characteristics of the FD. Alright, so I want to pause the video and interject here. I think the most important thing for me, thoughts on the FD driving, is that I don't fit in the car, so I'm not very comfortable behind the wheel, which just kind of makes the whole driving experience a little bit sketchy for me. I definitely think, you know, a smaller guy, smaller whoever, is going to fit better in this car and going to be able to drive it a little bit more comfortably and have a lot more fun behind the wheel, whereas I'm worried about, you know, breaking the door panels with my knees and my knees hitting the steering wheel, etc., etc. So, back to the live action. Like I mentioned earlier, the biggest thing in my mind and why I would want to own one of these is to own one of these, keep it 100% stock, like 100%, 93 spec stock, maybe just put wheels on it and lower it a little bit, and that would be it. And I would probably not drive it, because when you drive these, things break. And when things break on an FD, it's expensive. So, that kind of sums up my whole opinions and thoughts and my little car review of the FD RX7. I wouldn't say that I am at all crazy biased for or against the FD. In all honesty, I'm probably more biased against them because I've been around them a lot, so I don't have that kind of naiveness, right? You know, I've been in probably 5 or 6 different ones, ridden in ones ranging from 500 horsepower down to stock, you know, so I've kind of felt the chassis out. But I will not take away anything from this chassis. I mean, this is one of the most beautiful cars out there. This is definitely one of the coolest cars you can get. You know, definitely if you have a goal and you want to buy an FD and you want to get one, you know, set a goal, work hard, get the money, get it together, get a car, buy a project, fix it up, do what you got to do. You know, the FDs are sick. They're totally worth whatever you've got to do to get one, you know, if you aspire to have that. And, you know, performance value-wise, here's the end-all, be-all for me, right? If I buy one of these for 25 grand, I'm going to have to put 5 or 6 grand in it to make it mildly track ready, right? Just update stuff like, you know, cooling system refresh, new tires, right? Little things like that. And you're just going to budget all that in. Say you're 30 grand in, right? To be able to have a car like this, an FD, that you can take out and abuse it, and it's reliable, and you're just, you know it's sorted. Now, I'm not going to say you can't buy one that's already perfectly sorted, but 30 grand, okay? I bought a C6 Z06 for $29,000, and that was like kind of my substitute for what I would want out of a car that you spend this much money on, right? Now, like I said earlier, it doesn't take away from the fact that the FD is crazy and epic. It just kind of, these cars are getting a little older. They're getting a little harder to maintain. And they're getting a little harder to find parts for. So it makes more sense if you're really wanting a driver's car, get something a little bit newer. It'll be more comfortable, the interior won't be as creaky and whatever. But that's just my opinion. And, you know, hopefully the video brought some value to you. I think that you get a lot of what I would call shallow reviews of cars on YouTube, where guys will borrow somebody's car for a day, they'll drive it around, they'll tell you what they think about it, tell you how it drives, you know, this, that, and the other, and that's their review. And it takes time, obviously, to build the credibility and be around these cars for a long time, to know them and to, in my opinion, be able to give you, you know, a good handle on what they are and how they do. So hopefully that brought some value to you. I've enjoyed having this car around, doing the motor swap, breaking the engine in, you know, that sort of thing. And, you know, I would say, do I want one more after driving it? You know, kinda, but it also has made me really appreciate the level of comfort and space from my Corvette. So with that, drop a comment below if you disagreed, if you agreed, whatever you want to burn me at the stake for talking about FDs, go for it. Bring it on. I will catch you guys in the next video. We do at the Rad Potential YouTube channel, the whole deal. I do the rotary side, the whole big kind of vision for the company, whatever, all that stuff. And whether you're seeing this when we have 3,000 subscribers or hopefully a bunch more, I hope you enjoy the content we put out here. I hope you stick around for the growth and getting into R&D new parts. We're going to get the plasma table going here in a little bit. We're going to start some production stuff. We're going to start some patent stuff. So get in on that stuff. And like I said, we'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out. Keep it rad. What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? Hey. Ready? Did you guys see that? The stick is over there. The dog is over there. And I thought she was smart.